Hey, everybody. Just wanted to come to you all and talk about the New York Times article yesterday that announced the appointment of the new president and CEO of Weeksville, as well as chronicling the institution's fight for survival. I want to thank you guys for the many of you who reached out asking, how does that story get told without mentioning the person who led the institution, namely me? Before I get into that, what I want to do is first offer my congratulations to Raymond Codrington. I do not know Ray personally. We had one conversation while I was at Weeksville, and he was at High Arts. I heard he did great things at High Arts, and I expect that Weeksville will be in great hands under his leadership. So I encourage you all to continue supporting the institution and support Ray during his transition into that role. Second, I guess the question is, why is it important to have this conversation? Because one, the New York Times is the paper of record for the country. So what gets in there does form a kind of permanent record, and the way people begin to remember and reference this period in an institution's history. I want to say thank you as well to the New York Times Culture Desk. The editors and the writer, Julia Jacobs, did reach out to me, and I have been, as of earlier this afternoon, added to the piece. So that's great that, I am part of that conversation. However, if you don't know me and if you don't know much about Weeksville, you do read the opening sections of that piece, and it seems like Weeksville had no leadership, that it just launched a crowdfunding campaign on its own, that local politicians, out of an abundance of concern for Weeksville's well-being, ran to City Hall to petition for this status, the special CIG status. I can tell you that it didn't happen quite like that. And you also know that I led Weeksville as its president and executive director up until January 31st of this year. So here's my recollection of what happened. One, I want to let you guys know the context. Launching a crowdfunding campaign when an institution was at the point Weeksville was at came with substantial professional risk. If the crowdfunding campaign had not worked, you all would rightfully be saying, oh, Rob Fields, the guy who lost Weeksville. I can guarantee you that no one else on the staff or on the board had the same amount of professional reputational risk on the table as I did. I lost weight. I lost a lot of sleep in that spring of 2019, worrying if this venerable institution was actually going to survive. And fortunately for all of us, it did. I also want to disabuse people of the notion that, what you can kind of get from this is that the community of Weeksville just spontaneously came together and supported this crowdfunding campaign. Well, yes, and someone had to lead that effort. Somebody had to rally those disparate people, the folks in the community, the cultural institution leaders, the city, the folks from Kingsborough Houses, New York City Public Housing, right across from Weeksville. All those people had to be rallied to make that happen. I had to call on my relationships with the press to get that done. Now, did I do this campaign all on my own? Of course not. But In the month leading up to that campaign, it was me crisscrossing the city trying to raise money and gain support for this campaign. The press release that got used, I wrote that, as well as the script that Michael K. Williams read and used during the Save Weeksville campaign video. And speaking of Michael K. Williams, it's my relationship with him and his management team that was able to bring him to the table to be the video face of that campaign. And I think that was a defining factor as well. So yeah, it didn't just spontaneously happen that people gave $350,000. CIG status, that happened because of a confluence of relationships that I had either established anew or developed that had been kind of dormant. It was my relationship with the other leaders of the Brooklyn the Brooklyn CIG members. You know, it was my relationship with the then CIG chair and the commissioner at the time for the Department of Cultural Affairs. It was my 20 plus year relationship with Lori Cumbo that went back to when she launched Mokata. And it was the strength of that I think gave her the confidence to spend the political capital that allowed her to galvanize all the support she did among the political leaders across the city to support this push. No small thing. So much of this was made possible by the fact that not only did people believe in Weeksville, but they believed in my leadership. See, I see myself in this line of leaders, and I've had a lot of time to think about the role of the executive director. And the thing that's true is that we're all just stewards. You know, it was never the Rob Fields Cultural Institution or anything. It was the Weeksville Heritage Center. I was a steward, much in the way that, you know, Joan Maynard carried this institution for 25 years and then handed it over to Pam Green, who was responsible singularly for getting that building built. You know, a Black woman got a $35 million building built. And her successor, Tia Powell Harris, did everything she could to right the institution after the financial crisis of 2016. And so what I understood my role to be was to really continue that work and put Weeksville on a path to long-term stability. And the crowdfunding campaign, the CIG status was all a part of that. And that's now what I am able to give to Ray so that he starts his tenure with a stability that I didn't have when I got there. He's got money in the bank. He can hire the staff he needs. He has a roadmap and a strategic plan. And he has the visibility and access that CIG status provides. And all that is huge. And I guess at the end of the day, what I wanted was acknowledgement for that. You know, the last thing I'll say is we are living through this Black Lives Matter moment, and we often hear talk of the way that the labor of Black arts professionals is erased from white institutions. And unfortunately, this original New York Times piece, intentional or not, was an act of erasing Black labor on the part of a Black institution. So even as we are building and celebrating resiliency amongst Black arts institutions and Weeksville in particular, I think it is incumbent that we all operate with care and grace to make sure that we're not perpetuating the same oppressive cultures and systems and modes of operating that we rightfully decry in white institutions. So I want to thank you guys again for all your support, and I want to thank you for taking time to listen to this video. Take care.